Alright guys, out here at Sandridge for a couple hours, and set up my new war bonnet Mamba Jamba. This is the Sil Nylon. I believe they have a Spintex version as well. You can see it's cat cut on all sides. I didn't get it quite set the way I want it. You can see there's a little bit of slack here. I'm still working on this continuous ridge line. I'm not 100% sure. I think I've got it right. I watched Derek Hansen's video on it, and I believe I have it set up right, where I've got a fixed loop with a carabiner going around the tree, clip back onto the main line, clip it into my tarp, and then I guess I could go over top of the tarp too, but then on the other end I have my main line coming around the other side of the tree back down to here, and I made a continuous loop out of, I don't know what kind of cord this is. I made a couple of them, basically where there's no actual knot, and then clipped in with a carabiner over the line and in through the edge of the tarp. I think I have this correct. I'm not 100% sure, but I really like how this thing pitches. It pitches nice and taut. There's not like tons of wrinkles and everything on it. It's kind of a cool color. And what I've got over here on my tie outs, I made 4 of these. I've got it lark's headed on with a fixed loop. Down here I put a couple tarp tensioners. Basically just kind of tied in a piece of shot cord and left when it's not staked out, this orange cord is loose, and then you just pull it down tight to where the orange cord's tight, and then as the night progresses this tarp will loosen up, and kind of this shot cord will keep everything kind of snug. I still have to seam seal these side pullouts. Not a big deal. I did do a little bit of research and find out you do not have to seam seal this ridge line. But overall it's a really cool tarp. Under here I have my Grand Trunk ultralight hammock that I always take on my day trips. And it's kind of like the way this thing gets set up. Like I said, I think I need to figure this out a little bit more. I also thought about, instead of having a fixed loop on this end of the ridge line, putting another prusik. That way it'd be a little bit more adjustable. Basically what I did was I left the ridge line loose, got it centered over my hammock, and then staked it out and tightened it up. I staked it a little too tight on the backside. Yeah, so I have to get used to this whole system. I'm not used to it. Normally I just use a piece of paracord with a knot on one tree, trucker hitch on the other, and then do 2 what's that knot called? I can't remember the name of the knot. I'll try to annotate it. But basically that's how I do my tarp, and then I just do pieces of paracord down to the ground. But I wanted to go with something a little bit more sophisticated, as far as, or more technical a little bit. You can see my tarp tie outs here on the other side. It's out of a different type of cord, but I ran out of this orange stuff. I'm going to try to get some more of it, because that stuff has like a, I think they call it glow wire. It's got a little reflective piece braided into the rope, and you can see it real well at night when your flashlight shines on it. This stuff is pretty bright as well. You can see it pretty well too. But I'm really liking this setup. I can't wait to try it out on an actual overnighter. It's pretty much everything I brought with me, other than my cook kit, which I'll probably have some coffee or cocoa or something here pretty soon. Might light a fire, might not. If I do decide to have cocoa, I can always cook it on a stove that I have with me. But I don't know. It depends on how long I end up staying out. I could light a fire fairly easily. Yeah, so that's what's going on at the moment. I wanted to kind of go over my pack loadout for a typical day trip. The bag's going to change from time to time, but right now I'm carrying a Deuter Futura 28 AC that I got from Captain Bart. This is like it's only its first or second time out. I just never really carried it, but it's perfect size for day trips. It's got a really nice trampoline back pad on it. And so I thought I'd kind of go through what I carry with me on a typical day trip. You've already seen my tarp over there and my hammock. Also, what I carry with me is an axe of some sort. This trip is just a small little Wetterlings that I broke a few years ago. The handle broke on it, and I just threw a hardware store handle on. I also carry some tent stakes. I carry 4 tent stakes for my tarp. In this bottom bag, that's typically a sleeping bag container, or a portion of the bag, I carry a small space blanket, just an SOL space blanket. I took it out of its original package, put it in a snack size Ziploc bag, and coated it with duct tape so it'd be kind of sturdy. Kind of just threw that in there just in case I ever needed it. This is kind of my contingency plan if I ever was to get stuck overnight. If you look back at Captain Bart 1's videos, I believe it's called Day Hike Overnighter, and he also did an after action report on that. It was a very interesting camp out. I can't remember the exact temperature. It was around 40, I believe. Might have been a little bit lower. But we only took with us what we would normally take on a day trip. And I basically had a couple small, the little tiny little SOL bivvies, the cheap ones. Those work. You know, I used one for a sleeping bag because that's all I had, and it kept me warm. But the problem I found with that is they don't breathe, and you get on them and you start to sweat, so you have to crawl out of them. And as soon as you crawl out of them, about 10 or 15 minutes later, you start getting cold again, so you have to crawl back in. And that process had to be repeated all night long. It was definitely a doable night. I can't really complain because, you know, even if it would have gotten even a little bit colder than what it was, I still would have been fine. It just was by no means comfortable. And I'm big on comfort. So, what I've got for a contingency plan is my Sea to Summit Thermalite fabric reactor extreme. This is basically a type of, it almost feels like a t-shirt material. It's about that thin too. And it's basically sewed up into like a sleeping bag. It's just a rectangle sleeping bag type thing. Not super, you know, gonna add a lot of warmth or anything like that. But it will add a lot of comfort. And I think comfort's important, especially if you're gonna be in a stranded hiker situation. Because if it's a real situation, you're gonna have a lot of stress on you anyway from being lost or whatever. You might have to worry about food and other things, so why worry about whether you're going to get a decent night's sleep or not? A decent night's sleep in my mind can make the difference in that kind of situation. So I have this to add a little bit of comfort. I also have 2 of these SOL escape bivvies, one of which I cut like a 1-inch long slice in the foot of the bag. I wanted to kind of experiment with running my hammock suspension, because I always carry that hammock with me on day trips, running the hammock suspension through it and kind of creating a pod or a cocoon around my hammock to see if that would work to help keep me warm. I carry that hammock on, like I said, on all my day trips, but I also want to, you know, plan in case I, for some reason, have to sleep on the ground. So that's why I have 2 of these. Like I said, if one didn't work for the hammock, I always can sleep in the other one. You know, a combination of one of these escape bivvies and this thing, I would be pretty comfortable for the night. And these ones do breathe. It's like a breathable fabric. So I have 2 of those and a space blanket and the bivvy liner. That's my contingency plan. I had one more part of that, but it's in the main body of the bag. In this front pocket is normally where I carry the 4 tent stakes all rubber banded together. I also carry a knife in this particular trip, in the last several trips I should say. If I can get it out of the pouch. Anyway, I can't get it out with one hand. But it's a, there we go. It's a Bushcraft Northwest knife. It's got a I believe this is a bamboo handle. I could be wrong on that. But it's an 01 tool steel knife. Very comfortable handle. I just really love this knife. It's just a really good knife. Nice leather sheath. I got it from Captain Bart, and he got it in trade as well. Whoever I had it before Captain Bart had a D-ring up here at the top of the sheath, and it was stitched shut, and this was stitched down here as well. I think they unstitched this from the original sheath. They kind of modified it to put that D-ring in there. I'm not a big fan of carrying drop style, so I took and this stitch, I was on a camp out with Captain Bart and Morgan and Hovind, and the stitches came undone and the knife fell right off my belt. So I had to keep it in my bag. I just kept using it from my bag instead of having it on my belt. But when I got home, I went ahead and took that D-ring out. You know, I had D-stitch up here, and then I had to take all these stitches out, clear down to here, just so I could get in here to sew this. And then I sewed this back up shut with some nice artificial sinew, and then I sewed all this back up. So I think it's going to be a pretty good sheath and a pretty good knife. Really liking this so far. But I do carry, it's not always that knife, but that's the one I've been carrying lately. Also have my folding saw, always useful. And then when you get into the main body of the bag, this is where I carry my tarp, my hammock, my cook kit, and my bits and bobs bag. But the last bit of my contingency plan is a Husky document bag. You can get these at Home Depot, and basically what I have in here is 3 55-gallon 3 mil thick contractor grade garbage bags. And the reason I have these, if you look back, like I said, to that video with Captain Bart, we used garbage bags to fill up with pine needles, and that was our mattress. Mine was nowhere near big enough, and I didn't get anywhere near enough pine needles, so I was very uncomfortable that night. Woke up with a pretty bad backache, and I wanted to up the ante on that. So I went ahead and went with some sturdier bags. I put 3 of them because 2 of them I think would be big enough to make a plenty good enough mattress for me. I kept the 3rd one. I could always use it to make a mattress, but I also could use it to make rain gear or whatever else I may need. So that's the other end of my contingency plan. Now, like I said, that's all that's in the pack itself. Last but not least is my cook kit. Now, this is going to change from time to time. You might recognize the bag. This is one of Malcolm's bags, or some people might know him as the Hidden Woodsman on Facebook. This is a bag he made me. It's for a Morse pot, I believe, but I don't have a Morse pot, so I just use it for my entire cook kit. In here I have my Snow Peak Soloist, or Solo. Usually comes with a small cup on the bottom. I have since lost that. But this is a great pot for like a day trip or something. Coffee, a couple paper towels, and a fuel canister for my stove. I have my Kapilka, which just happens to be the cup I'm using right now. A bandana. My stove itself, this happens to be the MSR Micro Rocket, which is a miniature version of the Pocket Rocket. Has a little piezoelectric igniter in there and everything. It's kind of cool. This is a 60s era German military butter container, and inside of here I have packed full of sugar. It's got a plastic liner and a little rubber seal for the lid. Keeps my sugar nice and neat. I'm going to try to find another one for my coffee. just because these bags tend to rip a lot and I tend to lose my coffee and sugar and stuff. A spoon. Gotta have a spoon to stir your coffee. Have a little camp suds just to help with cleanup. I want to find a smaller bottle of that. That's kind of quite the large bottle. It's actually the bottle I take with me when I go to Boundary Waters. Also in here, last but not least, I have my Snow Peak titanium bowl that I eat out of. A small scratch pad for cleaning my pots and stuff. A couple Starbucks Vias. 1 or 2 packets of cocoa and some tea bags. And that's my day trip loadout. Alright, y'all. This is what I was talking about. This is the SOL escape bivvy. I got it zipped up and everything. If you look down by the foot end, I have a small slice that I put my whoopee sling through. And that just lets it go completely around the hammock and me and everything. And so I just put this thing on here. I don't have it snugged up or anything, but it completely covers me. It's not the absolute most comfortable because I can't lay diagonal. But if I did get stuck out, I could definitely do an overnighter with this. As soon as I got in here, I started immediately feeling warmer. I don't know what the temperature is right now. I'm guessing it's in the mid 60s, but I could definitely feel a difference in here. There you go. Maiden voyage of the MSR micro rocket. I believe that's its name. I might be calling it by a wrong name or something. It might be called like the mini rocket or something like that. But it's like the little brother to the pocket rocket. So I'm getting ready to have some cocoa. I got my titanium Snow Peak Soloist pot. I'm gonna put that right on there. And I don't think I have the. There we go. Those pot supports are just almost a little bit too wide for this pot. It's just barely setting on there. But I did light it with a little piezoelectric igniter. Kind of go around and you can shock people with that thing. That'd be kind of funny. But anyway, yeah, so stoked the fire up pretty good. Warming up. And I'm actually really impressed with that bag over there. That did better than I thought it would do. It's not, you know, like I said, I couldn't lay like I normally would. I couldn't lay asymmetrically, but you know, if I really wanted to, I could just get inside of that and then get in the hammock. That would be another way of doing that. But I just wanted to try it that way, just kind of to see what it would do. Yeah, so I might try that out on another future camp out or something. But who knows? But anyway, so for now, just got finished making the cocoa on the little MSR micro rocket, and it made some really good cocoa. Cooked it in my little pot like I showed you, and turned out really good. Found a piece of wood over at the next campsite over, nice piece of dry dead pine, and I split it with my little hatchet wherever that went. Little hatchet here. Basically I took and sunk this in the top of the wood, took that piece right there and just batoned the heck out of it until I got it split. Worked out pretty good. Yeah, so I pretty much I'm gonna stay for a little while longer and probably head home and call her a day. So yeah, I'll try to get back to you guys here in a little bit. Alright guys, one other thing I wanted to point out, piece of gear I'm trying out today, that I actually got the idea from Morgan, that we camped out with a while back. I got my hammock here, and I got whoopee slings coming off of it, which I'm actually going to put a continuous loop and then lark's head to so I have a drip ring there. But I have some carabiners on here, and these are the Eno slap straps, I think they're called. If I can get a hold of them. But they had just loops every once in a while, and they work really good for tying around the tree. Yeah, there you go. They work really good for putting around the tree and then just clipping in, and then you can make your suspension here. So ideally, you could get your carabiners underneath the edge of your tarp. My tarp's not quite big enough for that, but you could do that. That way it'd give you a drip ring underneath your tarp. I mean, the water would come down here, drip off this, and then I'm personally going to put another continuous loop into my hammock and then have my whoopee sling attached to that. So I've got a separate drip ring. And then same thing over here. A little bit bigger tree, so I ended up tying in a different spot, or clipping it at a different spot. But I really like these. These seem to be pretty nice. I'm not sure if I'll keep them or not, like in my regular day trip setup, but for now they're working great. But that's all. I just wanted to point that out.